He said, a state is doomed to fail when they can no longer tell a good man from bad.
Yeah.
And, when you start to draw some connections, I think of the words of Seneca, the philosopher. He said that the element of surprise always makes a calamity so much worse.
Mm-hmm.
And so you actually need to foresee things coming so that it's not a surprise to you, and you can act virtuously and try to help as many people to get through it as possible.
Right.
When I'm talking with you about all this sort of stuff, it's hard not to start to think revolution. It's just, are we on the verge of some sort of catastrophic human event? Nobody can really jump in and stop it other than to just say, listen, as many people as possible, just act calm and try not to make this worse than what it needs to be. I don't want to spread fear around that. I don't want to spread rumors that that's going to happen. What I am interested in is getting people to think about the very real consequences of not being vigilant in a time like this when there are so many moving parts. So I think that it's helpful to have that conversation. Do you think that, without fear mongering, which is not what I want here, do you think that we're on the edge of some sort of, really tense moment in history where things could go south very quickly like that?
Yeah, the question is how quickly. Over the course of history, we are almost certainly going to see a very significant simplification of a lot of systems that we've built up over the course of the last 100 years using the cheap energy of fossil fuels. Our food system will have to go back to a more local basis. We won't be able to support huge financial systems based on ephemeral claims on future wealth. So the question is how that simplification occurs and how suddenly and how controllably it occurs. And I'm in touch with several networks of scholars who have been thinking about this for some time and looking for ways to alert the authorities, if so that steps can be taken at the policy level to make this as painless a transition as possible. So far, we haven't had much luck in getting the ear of the folks in charge. It's a message they would prefer to just tune out. There are some in the military in the U.S. who are certainly aware of all of the things that we've been talking about, and very privately are making sort of plans to deal with these sorts of things. But of course, that's from the perspective of the military, which is a very different perspective from somebody who is able to make policy in, say, the food system or the healthcare system or something like that. So it's a bit discouraging. So from that standpoint, I could say, maybe a more chaotic adaptation is more likely. But on the other hand, we have seen with the coronavirus pandemic, the speed at which people are able to adapt if given the right messages. So social distancing, wearing face masks, there are all sorts of pretty dramatic adaptations that people have undertaken. And for the most part, a very pro-social attitude. And I think we can take some, derive some optimism from that, so that just to assume that because we're headed into a pretty deep and scary transformation, that therefore this means we're all going to be at each other's throats and stealing each other's canned food at gunpoint and so on. Not necessarily. I'm sure that's going to happen in many instances, but that's not all that the future holds, even in the worst case, I'm sure.